In a quiet cemetery in the USA, a young homeless woman breaks down crying beside a stranger's grave, when suddenly a millionaire approaches her and gently says, "That's my wife's grave. What's your story?" This unexpected moment becomes the beginning of a powerful journey of loss, kindness, and second chances. Like, share and subscribe, and tell us where you are watching from. Now let's get started. Emily walked slowly through the quiet cemetery in Seattle, her thin jacket barely protecting her from the chilly morning air. She looked exhausted, as if life had drained every bit of strength from her. Her shoes were worn out, her hair messy from nights spent in shelters, and her eyes swollen from crying. She stopped at a grave she had never seen before, but something about the peacefulness of that spot drew her in. Sitting on the cold grass, she pulled out an old photograph of her late mother and whispered, "I'm sorry, Mom. I really tried." For several minutes, Emily cried quietly, pressing the photo against her chest. She felt completely alone, invisible to the world. Life in Seattle hadn't been kind. After losing her mother, she bounced between part-time jobs, but none lasted long enough to save her from eviction. Every night was a struggle for safety, warmth, and food. She didn't have friends or relatives left, and the city felt too big, too fast, too uncaring. The cemetery was the only place where her pain didn't feel out of place, where silence felt comforting instead of threatening. As she wiped her tears, she noticed footsteps approaching but didn't look up, hoping the person would simply walk by. Instead, the footsteps stopped right beside her. A man in his early 40s stood there, carrying a bouquet of white roses. He wore a charcoal coat, polished shoes, and carried himself with the kind of quiet confidence that suggested success. But his expression carried sadness too. Emily shifted uncomfortably, embarrassed to have been caught crying near a grave that wasn't hers. She started to stand and apologize, but her voice failed her. "That's my wife's grave," the man said gently. His tone wasn't accusing, only calm and soft, like he didn't want to disturb her grief. Emily froze and quickly stepped back, cheeks flushing with embarrassment. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to—" She tried to explain, but he raised a hand slightly, signaling that she didn't need to justify her sadness. He placed the roses down carefully on the grave, brushing the stone with a tenderness that made Emily realize he was grieving too. The silence between them wasn't awkward. It felt strangely understanding. When he finally looked at her, his eyes weren't judgmental. They were curious, compassionate. "You seem like you're going through something," he said quietly. "Would you like to sit?" Emily hesitated. No one had spoken to her kindly in weeks. She finally nodded and sat again, though her hands trembled. The man knelt beside the grave, took a slow breath and said, "My name is James Turner." Emily's heart skipped. She recognized the name. A tech millionaire often mentioned on local news. Why would someone like him even notice her? Before she could ask, he looked at her and gently said, "What's your story?" Emily stared at James, unsure if she should share anything. People usually avoided her when they realized she was homeless, but something in his voice felt safe, almost warm. Slowly, she told him how her mother passed away, how she lost her job at a downtown cafe after falling ill, and how her landlord refused to give her more time to pay rent. She explained how she'd been staying in shelters, sometimes sleeping near bus stops when beds ran out. As she spoke, her voice cracked, but James didn't interrupt once, only listened, with a quiet intensity she wasn't used to. When she finished, Emily looked down, ashamed of her situation. "I know people have bigger problems. I shouldn't be crying at someone else's grave," she murmured. James shook his head softly. "Pain is pain," he replied. "My wife always believed in helping people who needed it. She would have wanted someone to find comfort here." His eyes grew glossy for a moment, but he blinked quickly, regaining composure. He then asked, "Do you have anywhere safe to stay today?" Emily shook her head, embarrassed again. She expected judgment, but instead he sighed gently. "Come with me," James said. Emily tensed immediately. I can't just go with a stranger," she whispered. James nodded, understanding the fear. "You're right to be careful, but I'm not offering anything unsafe. I want to get you a meal, warm clothes, and maybe a chance to breathe." He pulled out his phone and showed her a public charity profile linked to his foundation, a clear sign he wasn't lying. Emily bit her lip, torn between fear and hope. She reluctantly nodded. "Okay, just for a meal." They walked out of the cemetery, James keeping a respectful distance so she wouldn't feel pressured. He drove her to a quiet, shaded diner on the edge of Seattle, where sunlight didn't beam directly through the windows. The warm interior, soft lights, and smell of fresh soup made Emily's eyes water again. She hadn't sat in a restaurant in months. The waitress brought food, and Emily ate slowly at first, as if afraid the plate would be taken away. James watched, not with pity, but with concern, like someone witnessing a soul finally breathing after drowning. After the meal, James made a decision. "Emily, you don't deserve to be on the streets. No one does." She looked up, confused. "I'm not offering charity for a day. I want to help you get your life back. A safe place, a job, stability." Emily felt the world. Pause. "Why?" she whispered. James looked toward the distant diner window, his voice low. "Because helping you feels like honoring my wife. She always said love isn't something you bury with someone. It's something you pass on." Emily's chest tightened, tears falling again. Not from pain this time, but from the first spark of hope she'd felt in years.